2 women are dead after a suspected drug-related head-on collision from over the weekend. Recent closures at Glacier National Park have slowed attendance, but park officials say it still may be a record year. And we see a moving story of how Stevensville honored those who died on September 11th, 2001.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on KAJ, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Don Fisher. Drugs are a suspected factor in a crash that led to the deaths of 2 women in Kalispell over the weekend. The head-on crash happened near Glacier International Airport just before noon on Sunday. Flathead County Sheriff Chuck Curry says 32-year-old Holly Richards of Bozeman and 40-year-old Linda Contreras of Riverside, California died in the crash. The Montana Highway Patrol says Richards was driving northbound while Contreras was driving southbound on Highway 2 when Richards crossed into the southbound lane, colliding with Contreras head-on. Both women were pronounced dead at the scene. The Montana Highway Patrol says alcohol and speed are not suspected to be factors in the crash, but drugs are. That accident brings the number of people killed on Montana's roads so far this year to 133. This past weekend, strong winds helped push out some of the heavy smoke in the Flathead Valley, leaving current conditions at moderate. Over the past month, and especially in the last few weeks, heavy smoke settled into the Flathead Valley from fires burning near Eureka and Glacier National Park. On Saturday, strong winds pushed that smoke out of the valley, allowing the skies to be clear and aviation resources to work on the fires. The air quality went from very unhealthy all the way down to moderate and even to good for a few hours on Sunday afternoon. And there are red flag warnings in effect until midnight tonight, and there is rain in the forecast for later this week that could push the smoke even further out of the valley. For more on that, we'll send it over to Russ Thomas with the first forecast. Russ?
Thanks, Don. Yeah, we're going to begin by taking a look at that red flag warning. It's only in place for another couple hours. In fact, just a shade under 2 hours through midnight. And as you can see, the area is mainly covered here at Glacier National Park, along the divide, and then up in northwest Montana. Winds west to southwest at 10 to 20, gusting to about 30 miles per hour. Humidity value is 11 to 20%. Now, I can tell you once we get closer to midnight, those humidity values will start to rise. In fact, already doing so compared to this afternoon. So some good news there. Temperatures 86 Thompson Falls, 71 St. Regis, 59 in Kalispell. We'll have more coming up.
All right, thank you for that, Russ. And the Sprague fire, which has burned to more than 14,000 acres in West Glacier, saw minimal growth overnight. The fire grew by about 750 acres yesterday, but improved visibility allowed 2 Canadian super scoopers to drop water from Lake McDonald onto the fire, reducing the intensity in the western edge of the fire and dropping a total of 250,000 gallons of water. Through today, the fire behavior is expected to be moderate and is expected to roll out and flank to the north of Mount Brown. Prior evacuations do remain in place between the foot of Lake McDonald and Logan Pass as the firefighters continue their work. And structure protection fire is still in event for the Lodge Creek area, and the rain rent system is now up and running. The irrigation system is set up along Snyder Creek in the Lake McDonald Lodge area. Regular Rainbird sprinkler heads have been paralleling the Going to the Sun highway. A 6-inch pipe is plumbing up to 700 acres of water a minute for the Lake McDonald up to the Going to the Sun highway. Fire managers say their goal is to stop the fire at the Going to the Sun road and not allow it to come to the side of the lodge. If it does not reach the lodge area, managers are using a system to get the fuel moistures to increase a point where they are totally unavailable to burn.
What we are doing here is we're wetting all of these fuels down. We're increasing that moisture content so that they're basically unavailable to burn. They won't support combustion. So we can have an ember land on it, but because they're wet, basically they won't ignite.
And Smith says they still have fire management action points set up and down the Going to the Sun road to Logan Pass. And if the fire edge reaches a management action point, that will trigger the activation of additional assistance from local fire departments. Fire management officials at the 135,000-acre Rice Ridge fire are working on a huge backburning operation on the south side of the fire north of Ovando. They hope to limit the likelihood that this blaze will make a damaging run south. MTN's Augusta McDonald has a story.
Between 4,500 and 6,000 acres span between the west to east perimeters from Black Canyon Creek to Cave Creek. The backburning begins at the fire line and will slowly crawl south until it approaches Forest Service Road 477. This is mostly national forest land, but it is right next to the Blackfoot Clearwater Game Range to the west.
As we would like to start up here if we can and gradually bring this fire down and get a low intensity burn so we're not trying to kill the forest and get a high mortality rate.
Sunday, they fired 3 ridges that run north to south and will back the fire down the sides of those mountains. Crews spent the end of last week building a sheltered fuel break that reaches 100 feet north of the 477 road. They want this 6-mile line to stop the Rice Ridge fire.
And then when it gets closer to the road, we will start doing what we call hand firing and take crews, and they'll light this by hand along the road, progressing to the east.
Fire managers say that bringing the fire to them and meeting it on their terms minimizes risk to the firefighters on the front line. Reporting from the Rice Ridge Fire, I'm Augusta McDonald for MTN News.
And they plan to have this operation complete sometime tomorrow. And 2 more wildfires will be receiving help from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. U.S. Senator John Tester announced today that the FEMA disaster assistance will be coming in to help the fight on Highway 200 complex fires in Sanders County and the Moose Peak fire in Sanders and Lincoln counties. The resources came in from a fire management assistance grant that made FEMA funding available to pay 75% of the state's eligible firefighting costs. The grants do not provide assistance to individual home or business owners and do not cover other infrastructure damage caused by the fires. Senator Tester announced Sunday that the Alice Creek fire near Lincoln, the Rice Ridge fire near Seeley Lake, and West Fork fire near Libby would also receive help from FEMA. Federal money had also been allocated for the Lolo Peak fire late last month. And as Montana has suffered from an unprecedented fire season, with wildfires consuming well over 1 million acres in the state, KAJ, the Montana Television Network, and the Montana Community Foundation want to help. We've partnered to create the Montana Wildfire Relief Fund. For nearly 30 years, the Montana Community Foundation has worked to strengthen communities through philanthropy and charitable giving. Through our partnership, all donations will go directly to help the communities and firefighters affected by these wildfires.
Everything matters. You know, every gift matters, and every gift, 100% of your gift is going to go directly to this cause. You know, there have been some incredible partners who've stepped up. Montana Television Network, for example, that is really making this a priority, and we have several others as well that have said, you know, this is important to us. And at the Community Foundation, it's important to us too. You know, we're your neighbors. We live here. We've been breathing the same smoke that you have.
And to donate, just go to kag18.com/wildfirefund. You can make your contribution online or get information on how to mail it. Our MTN stations will match the first $50,000 in donations, so please take advantage of this opportunity to make a difference for our neighbors across the state. And today marks the 16th anniversary of 9/11, reminding Americans, as well as many around the world, of nearly 3,000 lives lost that day. As the United States endures the anniversary, many are reflecting back and remembering the heroic acts that took place in the face of terrorism. MTN's Kent Lutzen captures the sights and sounds of an emotional memorial service held in Stevensville today.
It's just overwhelming. It takes me back to that horrific day and all the emotions that came over me and my wife, and then hearing the names and seeing the faces again is was overwhelming.
Andre G. Fletcher, Andrew A. Fredericks, Andrew Ryan.
It was pretty hard to get through. You know, I mean, you think about, you don't think about the sacrifices until something major happens, you know? And just the sacrifices that those officers made that day, and the sacrifices that their families made by losing them. Keeping the memory of those people that sacrificed on that day alive, just so it's not forgotten. It's such an integral part of our history. And it's really important that our generation passes on to the future generations what took place and the sacrifices that were made that day.
And coming up after the break, meteorologist Russ Thomas has details on our crucial fire weather and red flag warning, plus a pattern change towards the end of the week. And the UN approves tough new sanctions on North Korea following its latest missile test. But the White House says they did not go far enough.